Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back, another PMEX video. So tonight we actually have a pretty interesting banner, the allegedly, right, quadruple Pokefair banner coming out. Quadruple featured Pokefair banner. So it has, it should feature 4 Pokefairs, right? Being Lance and Dragonite, Cynthia, Cynthia, and Steven Metagross, right? So the 2 Cynthias plus Lance plus Steven, we're also getting the rerun of the 2 Champions event, right? So that should also be fun. If you guys haven't, checked that story out, you should probably check it out. It's really good. It's not like top tier story, but it was nice. So yeah, in terms of this banner, right? It could go 2 ways because we don't exactly know the rates of the banners yet until the banners come out. So it could either be 1, they're a 4-way split of 1%, right? They're 1% each. And then, adds up to, I guess, what, 4% in terms of the rates, right? Or it could be 1.5% each, which adds up to 6% rates, right? Because it happened, because we've had triple featured before, and we've had double featured, right? Double and triple featured have all been 1.5% each, which again, obviously adds up to, either 3% or what, 4.5%, which are really, really high rates, right? If it's going to add up to 4%, then it's still relatively high rates, but if it adds up to 6%, if it's 1.5% each, that's going to be insanely high rates. I mean, if it's 6% rate to get a random, Pokefair, right, out of these 4, that would be really, really nice. If it's 1%, then it's still not bad, but it obviously is not as great as 6%. I guess there could be also a scenario where they're each like 0.5%, which adds up to 2%, which if it's 0.5%, adds up to 2%, do not summon this banner. That's terrible, right? If it's 0.5% each, it's terrible. But if it is either 1% each or 1.5% each, then that's gonna be really, really good. So in terms of the units, right? These 2, or not these 2, these 4 are relatively old Pokefairs, right? Again, both Cynthia and Lance are really the first 2 Pokefairs in the game, right? And then you got Steven, and then it was Red, and then after that, Cynthia. Unfortunately, all 4 of these have been kind of power crept, right? They have not aged really well. I guess Dragonite aged really, really well, right? But outside of the Dragonite, the other 3 hasn't aged super well. Steven is still like the absolute king of legendary arenas, but in terms of the meta at the moment, obviously, we do tend to focus on Master Mode a bit more, right? Because it's a bit harder than legendary arenas usually, or a lot harder than legendary arenas. The 2 that got hit the most is definitely the Cynthias, because again, since at the moment it does seem like the meta is Master Mode. The thing is, the 2 Cynthias are not good for Master Mode, unfortunately, right? So let's just go over them one by one first, and then we'll talk about them as we go there. So first of all, Dragonite. Dragonite is very simple, incredibly simple unit. Very, very, very high attack, special attack, right? Very high BP, Hyper Beam, just big damage, Hyper Beam, really good, right? This thing, the damage is insane, right? In terms of a non-weather terrain unit. It's definitely up there, right? Insane amounts of damage. And on top of that, you do have Potion, right? You have Potion with 2 MPRs, and then you got healthy healing as well, all that stuff. So you definitely have some really, really good stuff here. The thing that Dragonite does kind of need is it doesn't have any offensive buff, so you definitely have to bring a support. But on the other hand, 99% of the teams you want to bring a support anyway, so I don't think it's a knock against Dragonite. A lot of people keep saying, oh yeah, well, Dragonite, you need supports. Well, yeah, most units need supports. What's your point? Right? Just bring a support for Dragonite. What the heck? Right? Just bring a support for Dragonite. It's really not as people make it out, to be like, oh, Dragonite, he's so team reliant, right? His team is so hard to control. No, it's not. No, it's not much. It's not harder than any other, run-the-mill damage dealer in the game, right? So yeah, Dragonite just really easy, simple, big damage, right? In terms of how many copies he's fine at 1 out of 5. Right, definitely fine at 1 out of 5. 2 out of 5 is slightly better. You have an extra NPR for Potion, but I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. But you do have Hyper Beam move gauge refresh, which is nice because, I mean, it's a 4 gauge move, right? What can you do? Although people always talk about, oh, how slow he's not that slow. I mean, don't get me wrong, 255 is not like fast, right? This is a level 130 stats, by the way. 255 is not fast, but it's also not like, it's not like snail speed either, right? But, you know, the move gauge refresh would definitely help. So 2 out of 5 Dragonite would be nice. 2 out of 5, I don't think it's really necessary. You don't really get much. You get Healthy Healing, which is cool. Rejuvenate 6, which is cool if you sync with Dragonite, which, you know, a lot of times you maybe don't want to sync with Dragonite. You probably want to sync with an EX support instead, and then just keep blasting the Hyper Beams just because, you know, Hyper Beams do so much damage, right? But yeah, the move gauge refresh is nice. So 2 out of 5 Dragonite is definitely nice to have. 3 out of 5 I don't think is necessary at all, right? But 1 out of 5 could you know, still work well enough, right? But yeah, Dragonite is definitely, you know, the one that aged probably the best, right? In terms of the today's meta, he's just incredible for Master Mode, right? Moving on, we some Garchomp. Garchomp might be the one that aged the worst, unfortunately. It's just in terms of, don't get me wrong, Garchomp's still good. They're all good. They're all good units, right? They're all good units. But just in comparison to like where Garchomp was right now versus where Garchomp was like maybe like a year ago, it's definitely not as you know, comparatively not as good, right? So first of all, what Garchomp does have, right? The big thing is Garchomp has an Earthquake that does solid damage. Garchomp's very fast, right? Which is something I do like about Garchomp. Garchomp very, very, very fast. And you could potentially pick up something like a Sand Screen, which gives Garchomp a solid special defense as well, and then Soothing Sands, you know, Garchomp's not easy to go down either. And then big thing over here, Starting Stand 3, on top of ramming speed, you got 2 30% multipliers, and then you have Starting Stand 5 as well, right? So you have a lot of multipliers. However, unfortunately, despite the fact that Garchomp has a lot of multipliers, Garchomp's damage is just not anything insane. Garchomp's damage is not very, very crazy, right? It used to be like, you know, one of the top in the game, but now there's just so many units that just absolutely just out damage Garchomp by like a lot, right? Like even like Raihan, Zekrom, Gardevoir, right? Like it's like Garchomp's just not, it's just not like a really high damage dealer anymore, even though again, still solid damage, but it's just not anywhere close to like top tier in terms of damage dealing. And the other thing about Garchomp, and this is the biggest unfortunate part about Garchomp, and again, it's not Garchomp's fault. This is not Garchomp's fault. It's just that AoE moves in the meta are not amazing right now, right? They're not amazing. Again, you can make AoE units work, right? There are AoE units that are really, really good. For example, Swampert, really, really great here. But the issue with Garchomp is multiple fold, right? There's again, there's multiple issues with Garchomp. First of all, you know, damage not that great. It's still really, really good. It's just not, you know, anything top tier. Like the damage isn't high enough to like cover up Garchomp's issues, right? Which is one, AoE. AoE is just not good in Master Mode, right? You want to focus down the opponent as fast as possible. AoE splits your damage by 50%, even though you get more total damage output. Your damage on a specific unit is just not good enough, which again is kind of what you want to do in this day and age. The second issue, right, in comparison to like Mei, right, other than, yeah, obviously Mei does so much more damage than Garchomp, but outside of that, the thing that like separates like Garchomp from something like Mei, right, and why like one AoE works, one AoE doesn't work, is Garchomp's partner. Acerola is just not good enough, right? Acerola, of all the gridded weather terrain units, is easily the worst, right? Easily the worst. Musharna, Luxray, Mei, Silver Ho-Oh, Lyra Meganium, they're all miles better than Acerola. Acerola doesn't give you any, well, I won't say any, but doesn't give enough support, even though it does, you know, +1 attack 50% for +1 crit, which is nice. Which obviously Lyra Meganium has. And the other thing is, Acerola gives you 0 damage. Acerola gives no damage at all, right? Luxray gives you some damage. It's not anything crazy, but it gives you something, right? Musharna's damage is insane. right? Maze damage is obviously, you know, top tier, right? And hose damage obviously, you know, really good as well. Ace Roll gives you nothing. And Ace Roll can't tank either, right? Luxray, Musharna, May, even Meganium, right? Even though Meganium not that great, but you know, at least Luxray, Musharna, and Swampert, fantastic tanks. Ace Roll not so much, right? So if in the future Garchomp does get a better sand partner, that would definitely help a lot. And in the future we get some other new mode, right? I mean, we are getting this new event coming up, so who knows, right? If we are getting like a new mode that could like sort of like make AoE better again, right? Or if it's, you know, just battles like 3v1s, right? That would make Garchomp much better, right? But at the moment, Garchomp is, well, still good. Just not as amazing as it was before, right? Unfortunately. So that's the Garchomp thing. In terms of how many copies you'd probably want, Garchomp you definitely want 3, right? You definitely want 3 copies, because 2 out of 5 you got like basically nothing. 3 out of 5 you get both ramming speed and surging sand. Without ramming speed and surging sand, Garchomp is just not good at all, right? That's where you get most. That's extra 6% damage. You definitely want to go for 3 out of 5 Garchomp, right? So moving on into who's next alphabetically? Metagross. Metagross is still good. Metagross is definitely still good, right? Metagross, you have recuperation and heals. You got flinch aggravation on Iron Head, right? Good defenses. A good, you know, nuke on Haymaker. Guaranteed crit nuke, right? As well, which is really nice, especially if you have EX Steven. So Metagross is still really good. It's just that like a lot of other units kind of sort of outclass him, right? In terms of like the roles, maybe not so much roles, but more so like demand on a team, right? There just isn't as much demand for Steven's skill set, even though it's fantastic, right? But again, still really great. Not too much terrible to say about him. Oh, I guess one knock against Steven is, even though he has like insanely high attack, he does like no damage in comparison to like other damage healers, right? His damage is like absolutely terrible. Iron Head's not very high BP, and he has like no multipliers outside of Power Chain 3, which is not a real multiplier, right? So yeah, I guess the knock against Steven is he just does like compared, like he's terrible DPS, right? Terrible DPS. In terms of how many copies you want him, right? 1 out of 5 is bad. 1 out of 5 Steven is terrible. 2 out of 5 Steven is actually not bad, right? Oh, I guess 1 out of 5 isn't terrible. You still have like Haymaker, but 2 out of 5 is where you get recuperation, which is nice. But I would say 3 out of 5 Steven is the best, right? 3 out of 5 Steven. You got Iron Head aggravation, which is probably one of the more important parts of his skill set, right? If you don't have aggravation, I mean, the chance of flinching something is kind of whatever. And, you know, if you're not flinching something, then why are you using Steven, right? Unless you just really don't have any steel type damage dealers. Because all the other steel type damage dealers, right? Raihan, Gloria, whatever, right? Like most steel type damage dealers, gridded steel type damage dealers, like they just do so much more damage than Steven, right? They do so much more damage. But yeah, Metagross is again still really good. Komodo, where's Komodo? Wait, was Komodo actually alphabetically earlier? Oh, I guess it was then. Komodo is all right. Let's talk about the biggest downside for Komodo first is its speed. 195 speed at level 130 is atrocious. It's just very bad, right? Second thing about Komodo is damage is not very good. Even though you see, wow, look at Clanging Scales, yeah, fantastic, yeah, BP, right? It does, right? Really good BP, but first of all, your special attack, while being very good, is nothing like crazy, right? Not like Steven's attack or whatever, right? Even though it's still really good. But you also don't have like really great multipliers. You have Paralysis Synergy 2, which is extra 20% at the cost of you'll have to run like another Paralysis unit on your team, which isn't the worst, since you do have Serena, Palatine Serena, right? But then again, it just comes back to the AoE issue, right? Even though I do think Komodo is definitely better than Cynthia or Garchomp at the moment, just because Komodo just has a straight up better team comp, right? Cynthia, you're forced to run an Acerola, which is not really good. And then the other place you'll have to run a tank, or you're tanking with Cynthia, which is not not ideal. I mean, you could do it, it's just not ideal, right? And you're just sacrificing so much damage. With Como, you could maybe slot in again a Palantine Serena. Moonblast could do some solid damage, right? Increase your total DPS a bit. But yeah, you know, Como's definitely still good. But just you know, it's just same issues with AoE, right? It's just not as bad as Garchomp's situation right now, right? Although I do think Garchomp could have maybe a brighter future ahead of it than maybe Como, but yeah, who knows? In terms of how many copies you want, right? 1 out of 5 Como, nothing. It has nothing. 10 out of 5 Como also doesn't have much. Although you do have Static Shock 5, which gives you extra 50% damage on your sync. Although if you are running it with Palantine Serena, you probably want to sync with Palantine Serena instead, because Palantine Serena just does more damage, right, overall. But you do have the stat buffs, which is nice. But you would also probably just run another support to max out Como stats anyways. Right? Moonblade Refresh and Clank Seals definitely helps. Alright, but I don't think 2 out of 5 Como is a big deal. But 3 out of 5 Como isn't like a huge deal either, but it's definitely really nice, right? You got Paralysis Synergy 2, you got both, you know, the second Clang Sail Move Gauge Refresh, you got High Five 1, right? So I do think Como is either a 1 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 situation, even though the 2 out of 5 is not great. And as for Steven, like I mentioned before, all three are helpful, but 3 out of 5 is probably the best, right? But yeah, that's the situation these units are in at the moment, right? Again, none of them are bad. None of them are bad units. It's just some of them maybe have not aged super well with the meta, which again, they could definitely be relevant or be really, really good in the future, right? So I'm not too worried about them at the moment. It's just right now they're not in the best place, right? But I mean, they could still easily clear like Master Mode stages, right? Without any issue generally, right? It's just comparatively, they're just not as great, right? If you need ground type damage, you go for it, right? Or dragon type damage, although everyone has Rayquaza for free, I guess. But yeah, one last thing I do want to mention is, as good as they are and as great as the banner seems, I would not summon on it right away, right? Because we're nearing the end of the month. Groudon Kyogre is coming right in the horizon. Even if you really want to summon on this banner, and even if it's like a 6% like monster banner rates, right? I highly suggest you to save until we at least see what Groudon and Kyogre are, right? At least we see what the deal's up with those two, or whatever we're getting next month, right? Even if you don't care about Groudon and Kyogre, at least see what we're getting next month before spending on this. Please. Just a few days, just wait a few days, see what's going on, and then decide if you want to go for it or not, right? If Groudon and Kyogre is kind of whatever, then okay, you could go for this, right? If Garchomp and Kyogre are like amazing, or like, you know, next level, then you probably want to go for that instead, right? So anyways, yeah, that's this one, I guess. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy the videos, subscribe to our channel for some more PMEX content. And oh, one more thing before I go. Since it is like a 4-unit banner, obviously if you're looking for like one specific one, if you like have all the other 3, you know, 3 out of 5 or whatever, right, or however much levels for them to be useful, then you definitely don't need to go for it, right? It's more so of a banner for people who don't have any of them or don't have too many of them, right? This is more of a banner for like people to catch up rather than, you know, going for a specific one. Because if you're going for a specific one, then the rates are not going to be that great, right? But anyways, yeah, have fun, good luck if you're summoning, even though again you should probably wait a few days before you summon. But yeah, again, have fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.